All right, y'all, welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, we're going to be talking about learning to let go and surrender everything to God. And this is something that is so important as Christians and in our relationship with God and in our lives in general, because our whole relationship with God should be surrender. It should be all about surrender. But one thing that I want to touch on and dive into within this video that I think a lot of Christians get wrong about surrender is they think by surrendering that means God is going to do it for you. Where that is just not the case. God is not going to do everything for you, but He will lead you in the right direction to become the person that He created you to be, or whatever you want to achieve, whatever He created you to be. He will lead you to become that person, but He gave us the free will to choose that. So this is where surrender can get really confusing, and where people are like, oh, just surrender it to God, and then they don't do anything about it. They just sit there and they're like, oh, I'm surrendering to God, like God's going to take care of it, God's going to figure it out. But that's not the dynamic between surrendering to God and actually having our free will to choose to do what God's calling us to do. What it means to surrender is surrendering the outcomes. We need to, whether it be relationships, whether it be goals, dreams that we have, you need to learn to surrender the outcomes. To know and to still have your faith in Jesus no matter what happens. You could go broke, you could be homeless in the next 5 years, you could be divorced, you could do all these things, but you would still trust God even if that happened. And you have that surrender and that peace knowing like, Lord, like, I trust you. Like, no matter what happens, I know that you have my back and I will still choose to follow you. That is what surrender is. And God won't give you what you're praying for. God won't answer your prayers if you're not okay with those prayers not being answered. If you're in the mindset, and this is something I've struggled with so much, because that's not surrendering. If you're saying prayers and you're like, well, I want this dream to come true. And in your mind, you're like, if this doesn't come true, like, I'm going to be angry with God. Like, this has to come true. Like, that is the opposite of surrender. That's like forcing God to have to do something for you in order for you to love Him back. And that's the opposite of how Jesus' love is for us. Like, Jesus chooses to love us despite the fact that we fail Him every single day. And that's the kind of love that we should try to reciprocate back to Jesus, because that is what love is, to love them with no conditions, to love people with no condition. And I think this is something that we get so twisted. It's something with me included. Like, for example, like when I first started my goals and my dreams and my ambitions, I was like, I wanted to retire my dad. I wanted to be financially free and start these businesses and do all these things. I wanted to play D1 soccer. I wanted to do all these things. I wanted to grow on social media. I had these big goals of doing that. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. I wanted to do all these things. And I had all these big goals and dreams that I was praying to God every single day. And in the beginning, like, it felt like my relationship with God was relying on that, where I hadn't given that full surrender yet, where I was like, if these things don't happen, if God doesn't answer these prayers, like, I would be upset. Like, I don't know if I would trust God as much if these prayers weren't answered, if I failed everything, if I ended up broke, if I ended up poor, if I died tomorrow, if someone in my family passed away, if whatever it is, like, if everything, the worst case scenarios went wrong, I don't know if I would have had that same trust and faith in God. And that was when I realized, like, okay, I need to surrender this, because that's not surrender. That's me trying to force an outcome and force something to happen and force God to do something for me, when the reality is, like, whatever is in His will happen. And we just have to follow that, and we have to surrender that. And the first steps that I took in surrendering that is first acknowledging that. The moment that I was able to acknowledge, okay, my intentions aren't in the right place. I don't have full surrender and trust in God. Like, I'm lacking faith in this aspect. Like, my relationship with God is reliant on what He does for me. And that was when I realized, so that's the first step, is acknowledging where our intentions lie, and then taking the steps where I've talked about this in past videos, where be real with God. Be real with exactly how you're feeling. So say to Him, Lord, like, I desire to have full surrender and peace in your plan for me in my life. Like, help me to have peace in your plan. Help me to trust your plan. Help me to surrender all these things to you and to be okay no matter the outcome. No matter the outcome. Help me to still have that same faith and trust in you no matter what happens. Even if, like, this is what I learned how to go to. Like, I would pray this every single day. I'd be like, once I would pray that prayer and I consistently showed up, I consistently prayed to God about that and was showing God that I wanted that prayer answered through how I was living for Him and representing my life through Him. I would pray that every single day, and slowly over time I saw Him change my intentions. I saw Him change my heart, because I genuinely desired that. I wanted my intentions to be just solely on God. I wanted to have full surrender and trust in God's plan no matter what happened, no matter if everything failed. And once I learned that over time, like, I ended up getting that surrender, and I've gotten that peace. And And when I say it's a peace that goes beyond understanding, like it is truly, when you have that full surrender where you're not tied to any outcome and you're just like, Lord, like I surrender this to you. Like I'm going to do my best every single day. I'm not just going to sit and be content. I'm not going to not do anything and just be like, oh, I surrender it. No, like, Lord, I surrender this to you, the outcomes, but I'm going to do everything in my power and I'm going to work as hard as I can to honor and glorify you each and every single day, and try to follow your lead in every single second of every single day and do what I feel like you're calling me to do in each and every second of every single day. And then, Lord, like I surrender the outcomes, because at that point I've done everything I can and then it wasn't in your will. And that's something that we need to understand. Like we have to put in the work. We have to do the things that we feel that God is calling us to do, and God will steer us exactly where he wants us to be. So by doing your best every day, you can have that peace and then surrendering the outcomes. So do your best every single day. This is really all it is. You need to do your best every single day and do what you think God is calling you to do in each and every single moment of every single day, and just surrender the outcomes. You are not in control of the outcomes. You're in control of the work that you put in and your ability to follow Christ and to do what you feel like he's calling you to do. And he will lead you exactly where you're meant to be. And God's plan is always better than yours. That was something that gave me so peace, is I was like, I have these big goals and these dreams and these ambitions. And if I achieve these things and that's what my life becomes, like, that's amazing. And then to think that God's plan is even better than mine. And it may not be materialistic things. Maybe you might be poor and not rich. And maybe you might be divorced and have a family, but he knows that that's what's ultimately going to be best for you. And that there's so much peace in that. Like that, he wants you to be in a position where you're closest to him, and that's ultimately the best life that we can possibly have, is to be closest to God. And that's the life and plan he has for all of us. So whatever his plan, it's always better than ours. And we just have to trust and surrender that outcome to him, but just do our best each and every single day. And once you gain that peace, once you say that prayer and you're asking God to have that surrender, asking God to have that faith in him, your walk with Christ and your walk on your journey is so peaceful. Like I can't even express the amount of peace I had on my journey, even when everything was failing, everything was going wrong, because I had full surrender to Christ. Like I fully surrendered it to Christ. Like I would pray this every single morning. Like once I gained that surrender, I'd be like, Lord, like I will trust you. I will still have the same faith in you, even if I go broke, even if I'm homeless. And it's funny because I ended up actually being homeless for a little bit. And even if I like get married, get divorced, or like never end up getting married, like, or all my businesses fail, or all my goals I end up failing at, like even if everything goes wrong in my life, even if I lost everyone in my life, Lord, I will still trust in you. I will still have the same faith in you. And we all know deep down if we actually would. Like you can ask that question to yourself and you would be able to honestly answer that for yourself. Like really be honest with yourself and where your intentions are. And it's okay if you don't have that level of surrender yet, because you need to pray for that. That's how you know you need to pray for that, and God will provide that. He will answer that prayer for you and he will give you that level of surrender. And that's what he did for me. Like it didn't start that way, and I ended up being able to build that surrender in my life for Christ. And it's such a peace that goes beyond understanding. And I feel like especially with relationships today, this was the one thing that took me so long to surrender. I surrendered my goals, I surrendered my future, I surrendered all these other things, but I didn't surrender my relationships. Meaning, the idea of not getting married, the idea of not having kids, I couldn't surrender that outcome. Meaning like, I would think about that and I'm like, if God didn't give me a wife, if God didn't give me a family, like I would low-key be pissed. Like I'd be like, I feel like I low-key would be mad at God, or like, and that was something I realized, like, okay, that's not good. Like my faith shouldn't be, that's not me surrendering the outcome. That's me trying to force an outcome that may not be in God's plan. And yes, you can still think like, okay, this is where I feel like God's leading me towards, but you still have to surrender the outcome. So I was like, yeah, and still to this day, like, I do think God's calling me to be married and have kids and all this thing, but I've surrendered the outcome of like, if that doesn't happen, I would still love God. I would still put my faith in him. I would still trust him. I would not be angry with him. And I would know that that's his plan for me. And I would trust that. And that's the level of surrender I think so many in our generation haven't gotten to and need to start seeking, because I feel like a lot of us would be angry with God if we didn't get that. Or we would be mad, we would be upset, like we haven't fully surrendered that. So to end this off, I don't want to go on these videos too long, but to end this off, you have to don't use surrender as a way of being lazy and just having God do everything for you. No, surrender is surrendering the outcomes, being okay with all possibilities of what God's plan is for you, and having full surrender of what that is and who he wants you to be. And then you doing your best every single day to do what you think God is calling you to do in each and every moment. and then just surrendering that outcome. Whatever ends up happening is what's in God's plan, and thinking of all outcomes and still having the full faith and trust in God no matter what happens in your life, even if everything fails, even if everything goes wrong. And Job is the best example of this. If you look at Job, he had everything and everything was taken away from him. He had to suffer so brutally, but he kept his same faith in Christ, and that's what we need to do. We need to keep that same faith in Christ, even if everything falls apart in our life, even if everything goes wrong. So ask yourself, if you had to go through what Job went through right now, would you still have that same faith in God? Would you still have that full surrender and trust in God's plan for you? Or would you be angry? And that's how you know if you need to start praying for that surrender, praying for that ability to be okay with all outcomes in your life. And yeah, that's what I'm going to leave you guys with. Just learn to let go and surrender everything to God. And I promise you, your life and your journey will be so much more peaceful. And you will actually be able to end up exactly where God's plan is for you. And God's plan is so much better than yours. So just trust in that, put your faith in Him, and you will be exactly where you're meant to be. And just have full surrender and trust in that. And I will see you guys in the next one. If you guys made it to the end of this video, I want you guys to put a prayer emoji in the comments, because that lets me know that you guys don't have garbage attention spans and can make it to the end of the video. If you guys want to support the movement, we still have Crew Necks available for 10%. We're almost sold out of those. If you want to download the Upspace app, help bring health back to our world, or get some Happy to Be Here cacao, which I'm now a part of, which I mentioned in the last video, which I'm super excited about. Definitely some big things going there. But yeah, appreciate all of your support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.